The G35 has been a big hit for Infiniti. It strives to have the power and handling of a BMW 3 Series, but at a lower price.
But Infiniti has upped the ante for 2008 with a new coupe, the G37, with a starting price of about $4,000 less than the BMW 335.
There are 3 trim levels to choose from: the base G37 Coupe, the Sport that we have here, and the Sport with a 6-speed manual transmission. Now, our test car is fitted with 18-inch winter tires on aftermarket wheels. The 19-inch wheels that come standard on the S are much better looking. By the way, 18-inch wheels do come standard on the base coupe.
The styling's been updated. The headlights are more dramatic and these front fenders are much more pronounced. But Infiniti really hasn't done anything outlandish with the styling. In fact, it bears a strong family resemblance to the sedan version.
I think Infiniti is trying to straddle that line between a luxury car and a performance car. And to be honest with you, I think the German manufacturers do a better job of this. The coupe from BMW, the 335, or that gorgeous new Audi S5 we had on the show really exemplify how to do it very, very well. This car looks a little bit too soft for my liking for a performance car, but I do, however, like the large and aggressive looking brake calipers. The trunk is not that big and it's shallow too, so bigger bags might not fit in here for longer trips.
Not only does Infiniti have a lower starting price than the German competition, they put together a very well-appointed car. Standard equipment includes keyless entry with push-button start, Bluetooth hands-free phone, power tilt and telescopic leather steering wheel with radio controls, memory leather-covered seats, center control display, dual-zone climate control, Bose premium audio system, XM radio, and an iPod interface. All of this comes standard at a starting price of $47,350. The S versions are only $2,500 more.
The G37 isn't without its drawbacks, and most of it comes at the expense of bigger people. If you're a little bit wider, the seat bottoms are very narrow and dig into your thighs, plus there's even thigh bolsters that make it even narrower. Same thing for the back of the seat. Now, getting your hand between the door and the seat is a real challenge to adjust the seat. And if you're tall, you have to adjust the seat back to the point that I, anyway, couldn't find it that comfortable in order to get the clearance for your head. So tall and wide drivers probably won't like this car. I think the interior finish is pleasant looking, especially with the matte aluminum trim. There's easy-to-use controls and plenty of legroom for front passengers. Compared to the last Infiniti coupe, this interior is a big step forward. The back seat does offer good legroom, but headroom is compromised. Right, Lacey?
You know what, Zach, you're right. I'm about 5'7", and sitting in this back seat is not very comfortable. If I actually want to sit and lean all the way back, my head's hitting the window. The name G37 means that there's an all-new 3.7-liter V6 with 330 horsepower and 270 pound-feet of torque. That's more than the turbo BMW 335. The automatic transmission is a 5-speed unit that's very quick to shift when placed in the sport mode. When spirited driving is done in this mode, the shifts become very aggressive, but don't make the car feel jerky due to the fact that the engine throttle is blipped automatically and revs so freely. So when the driver needs the car to be in the right gear with the right amount of power, this mode is very capable. There's also paddle shifters located behind the wheel if you're a driver that likes to do the shifting themselves. But the sport mode on this thing is so good, they almost seem a little bit redundant. If you're like me and you like to do the shifting by yourself, I'd go for the 6-speed manual. The G37 has responsive steering, a nice ride, and it takes corners with absolute ease. Now, with 330 horsepower and such a comfortable ride, I really like driving this vehicle.
Now, because this is an Infiniti car, they had to find that perfect balance between comfort and performance, and I think they achieved this. They've hit a nice spot with the G37 Coupe. When you're driving along like this in everyday stop-and-go city traffic, it's quite comfortable. But when you ask the car and you throw it into corners and you get the steering off center, it gives very nice feedback to the driver. The G37 can be ordered with the optional 4-wheel active steering system that can turn the rear wheels up to 1 degree in the same direction as the front wheels for high-speed lane changes. This should not be confused with all-wheel drive. No, the G37 is only sold as a rear-wheel drive coupe. Now for a coupe, this G37 really has excellent outward visibility. Last year we had the Nissan Altima coupe and I found outward visibility was a problem. No problem with this car at all. Now the engine has a bit of a droning, resonant quality inside the car that I find a bit annoying, especially when you're sitting at idle. Now we've been comparing this car to the 335 BMW, and this car on paper has more power at 330 horsepower, but it's peakier power. It comes on at much higher RPMs, and it doesn't have the low-end grunt that that turbo 335 engine has. Even though on paper this vehicle says it has more power, it doesn't feel like it in the seat of your pants.
Infiniti has had their sights set on the Benchmark 3 series for a long time with the G sedan and now this G coupe. So Zach, do you think that they hit that mark?
I think on some levels they've hit the mark for sure, especially when it comes to content and price. This is a very well-equipped car, and it costs less than a BMW 335. It's got more horsepower, it's got a wonderfully dynamic automatic transmission, and it's also quite a smooth and relaxing car to drive. Some other cars in this class can be a little bit jarring. On the downside, I find the exhaust note, especially at idle when the car is in drive, to have a little bit of a resonance inside the car that I'm not really thrilled about. And also the space is a big issue for me. That really feels cramped. I'm not a super big guy and it feels squished in there. The Germans just build cars for bigger people. And the styling, it looks a little bit bland for my liking. The thing is that the Germans, Mercedes, BMW, they have decades to perfect their cars. The G series of cars has only been out for a little time, so you have to give them more time to really catch up. What do you think?
Well, Zach, I disagree with you. I actually really like this styling. It's got a nice flow to it, but yet it's still kind of aggressive looking. I really like the interior. It's well laid out, simple and almost elegant looking. And I like the smaller seats. I actually found them to be quite comfortable and a little bit more narrow, so I really felt cradled and comfortable when I was driving the car. But I do agree with you, there isn't a lot of space, especially in that back seat. And I found when you were backing up and trying to park, there is a little bit of a blind spot over your left shoulder. That being said though, Zach, I have to be honest, I really enjoyed driving this car.
The thing is though, if you fit in the car, that's a plus, and if you like the looks of the car, that's definitely a plus. But all the other things, it really has a lot going for it. It's a great value, and it drives so well. It's got a powerful engine, so I can see it finding a real place in the market.
For complete specs, go to our website at drivingtelevision.com.